The footprints weren't mine, but they were right next to me. This happened on New Year's Eve, or rather early New Year's morning. I was spending the holiday by myself. I had already visited family for Christmas, and when New Year's rolled around, there was no one to meet up with or celebrate alongside. So I stayed in. I cracked open a couple of beers, settled onto the couch, and let the TV run while the night passed. I watched the entire Times Square countdown, the confetti, the cheering crowds, all of it. Once that wrapped up, I switched over to some older holiday movies and let them play in the background. I wasn't especially tired, and by the time the clock crept past 2 a.m., I felt restless. I'd been sitting there most of the day, barely moving, and suddenly had the urge to get up and do something. Anything. I walked over to the window and looked outside. Snow was falling lightly, just enough to coat the ground. It was cold, obviously, and completely dark, but the idea of a quiet walk sounded peaceful. Without thinking too much about it, I threw on my jacket, pulled on a hat and gloves, and stepped out into the night to wander around the neighborhood. The silence hit me immediately. Even for that hour, it felt unusually quiet. I had assumed there would still be signs of parties, music, voices, cars passing by, but there was nothing. Every house was dark, except for soft outdoor Christmas lights glowing faintly against the snow. The streets were empty, no movement, no sound. Strangely enough, it felt calm, almost comforting. I honestly couldn't tell you how long I walked. I wasn't completely sober, so time felt slippery. I wasn't following any particular route either, just drifting through the streets, cutting corners, turning randomly, letting my feet decide where to go. Eventually, I ended up at the local park. The walking path didn't look like it had been cleared since earlier that day, but it didn't seem to be more than a couple inches of snow. It looked manageable, and I figured the change in scenery might keep the walk from getting boring, so I headed down the path anyway. After a short distance, I realized two things. First, the snow was deeper than it looked and getting harder to push through. Second, none of the path lights were on. Normally, there were small lamp posts lining the trail, but they were completely dark. Maybe they shut them off for the winter. Either way, it wasn't long before I decided it wasn't worth it and turned back. I had only been walking back for about a minute, dragging my boots through the snow, when something caught my eye. There were footprints alongside mine, fresh ones. They matched my path perfectly, running right beside my tracks from only moments earlier. Someone had been walking behind me. What bothered me was that those prints hadn't been there before. I was certain of it. And yet, when I looked around, there was no one in sight. I tried to follow the second set of tracks to see where they went, and that's when my stomach dropped. They veered off the trail, disappearing into the unlit trees and open darkness beyond the path. I couldn't see anything out there. It was completely black. For all I knew, someone could have been standing only a few feet away, watching me, and I wouldn't have had any way of knowing. I picked up my pace and headed out of the park. Still, I didn't fully panic. Looking back, I probably should have. I chalked it up to coincidence, or maybe my buzz dulling my sense of danger. At the time, I forced myself to believe it was nothing. I continued walking through the neighborhood for another 15 minutes, deliberately not heading straight home. I didn't notice anyone else around, and eventually I convinced myself that I was safe. When I finally got back, I took off my coat and winter gear and decided a shower might help me relax enough to sleep. As I started up the stairs, something immediately felt wrong. It was dark upstairs, completely dark. That stopped me in my tracks. I'm the kind of person who leaves lights on constantly, especially if I know I won't be upstairs for hours. I hadn't gone up there since waking up that morning, and I knew, absolutely knew, I had left the lights on. I carefully climbed the remaining steps and reached the hallway. I turned the light on and stood there for a moment, unsure what I was expecting to see. Slowly, I checked each room, leaning in just enough to look around. Nothing seemed out of place. After checking a room, I closed the door behind me. That's why my heart nearly stopped when I turned back around. The first door near the stairs, the one I had already checked, was wide open. In that instant, I was certain someone was in my house. I froze. After a few seconds that felt like minutes, I called out, asking if anyone was there. My voice sounded thin and shaky. I didn't move. Whoever it was could have been in that room or anywhere else in the house by now. I remember inching down the hallway towards the open doorway, each step slow and silent. My heart was pounding, adrenaline rushing, my stomach twisting with dread as I got closer. And then, everything went black. When I came to, I wasn't in my bed. I was lying on the hallway floor. My head was spinning, my vision blurred, and a brutal migraine pulsed behind my eyes. Only about 10 minutes seemed to have passed. It was obvious I'd been attacked and knocked unconscious. I had no memory of the actual encounter, only the moments leading up to it. I called 911 immediately. Whoever broke into my house was gone by the time the police arrived. I told them everything I could remember, but it still eats at me that there's a chunk of time missing. I almost certainly came face to face with the person who did it. I might have been able to describe him. I might have even known who he was. But my mind won't give it up. The investigation never went anywhere. No solid leads, no answers. I still don't know who it was or what they truly intended, but part of me believes they never planned on me waking up at all.